Welcome to Phantom Zone, the podcast where we dredge the lakes of hell in search of the worst the cinematic world has to offer. Then we put it on trial for its various sins against humanity, and should a film be found guilty, we end up shooting it into the far, far, far deep recesses of space, a Phantom Zone, if you will. I'm your host, Adrian Torres, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Scott Daly. Scott, how are you doing?
I am doing great, Adrian. I am ready to shit-talk Steven Seagal for at least 45 minutes.
Well, you kind of ruined my intro, but
shit, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll still say what I had, because I was very excited.
Adrian, people know what movie we're watching, because it's on the title of the podcast.
I know, but I still
do your thing. Do your thing.
I want to have, an air of theatricality to it. I want the production and the effort we put into these to be equal to or greater than the movies that we're watching.
Well, that should not be hard.
I know, but you still took this from me. So
I'm sorry. We'll cut it all out. We won't cut it out.
Anyways. It's been a long time coming, but we are finally here. Finally, we have reached this inevitable moment. When we set out to cover horrible films, you knew this was bound to happen. Everyone was thinking it and probably wondering, when are they going to cover this? They keep teasing us, but they never pull the trigger. We'll rest easy, because we have finally arrived to discuss not Heartbeeps, but a Steven Seagal film. Yes, it had to happen, and because of that, we have pushed Heartbeeps aside, and we apologize for that. But we needed to cover something truly insipid, even by Steven Seagal standards. We are talking about a movie from just last year, 2016, Sniper Special Ops.
Well, shit, Adrian, that was a pretty good intro. I'm sorry I ruined that. See? It was really good.
I try to come a little bit prepared. I don't know if you do that.
I guess I should read the documents that you send me before we start recording.
It'd be a good idea.
Yeah, probably.
IMDb has a somewhat misleading synopsis for this film. It says, when the mission to rescue a U.S. congressman who has been kidnapped by the Taliban goes sideways, Army sniper Jake Chandler and his partner are left behind. Now, on their own, they must survive enemy territory and wait for their unit to come back for them.
Holy shit, that's not what this movie's about at all.
No, it's not. It's not. How many Steven Seagal films would you say you've seen, Scott?
Oh, geez. I try to forget them immediately after seeing them, so a fair amount. I've seen a lot.
Here's the second question that I think is where the dividing line for most people is. Do you know the approximate year that the last one you saw was made in?
Oh God, probably the 90s, to be honest with you.
No, I think that's what the majority of people would end up saying. I mean, because he did have that big stretch in the 80s and 90s when he was making movies at a fair clip, and lots of people were seeing him. I mean, the first handful that he made were, entertaining for the most part. Even if they're still terrible films, they were made with some skill or finesse, Like, of course, On Deadly Ground, everybody knows that one. Marked for Death. And, of course, even if you're not a big Steven Seagal fan, there's a good chance that you've seen Under Siege.
Yeah, I definitely have seen Under Siege. And I think that's the boat one, right?
The first one's the boat one. The second one's on a train.
Yeah, because the boat one's where the stripper busts out of the cake, right?
Yes.
I think that's like one of the first times I saw boobies in my life. We learned a little bit about me.
There's also Tommy Lee Jones in a knife fight.
I remember the stripper jumping out of the cake. That's what I remember about Under Siege.
Poor Tommy Lee Jones. He's unhinged in that movie And they have the weirdest knife fight later in the movie. But what everybody remembers is that Steven Seagal's character is a chef who used to be a Navy SEAL, and God, I'm gonna mess up her name. Erica Aleniak, I want to say.
Yep, that's her.
Is the stripper who pops out of the cake because she was also on Baywatch.
Yes, she was.
A former Playboy playmate?
Sure. I don't know.
I want to say that's correct because I think that was one of like the two qualifications for being on Baywatch at the time. If you were a female, the two qualifications were you had to be a blonde former playmate, or you were the skinny brunette chick.
Yeah, those are them. Those are the qualifications.
That's what they are. There's all I remember about Baywatch, and I do apologize that we're getting sidetracked. But they had, of course, there's Hasselhoff that was on it. There was the skinny, short hair brunette lifeguard. There was the bald, mustachioed male lifeguard who had an obscene amount of chest hair. And then there were like 4 to 5 blonde former Playboy playmate lifeguards.
Yeah, those are the only parts I remember, except for Hasselhoff.
And then there were jet skis and dolphins half the time.
Yeah, slow running.
Yes.
What movie are we talking about? I don't remember.
I don't. You got sidetracked talking about the stripper popping out.
She jumped out of a cake naked.
All of this discussion is more exciting than the damn movie we watched. This was a slog.
Oh my god, I despise this movie so much.
It's an hour and 26 minutes long, and there's only 3 minutes of credits.
I watched a 5-hour movie the other day, Adrian, and this movie felt longer than it.
I believe it. And it throws you into confusion just off the bat. There's news reports over the radio about terrorism running rampant all around the world. American flags being, burned here and there. We see a vehicle from like a POV night vision from an aircraft, I'm guessing. And a vehicle is blown up, not told why. We cut to black. Then we open up on a city street that has an explosion go off in the middle of the street. Then it cuts to black. Then a shot of a chopper getting ready to land. It cuts to black to put up name. And then it goes back and the chopper is flying away. And there's a team of people who are on the ground, and we hear voiceover of chatter between, I guess, army men. Are they army or the Marines?
They're army.
They're army. Basically.
They're army. Yeah.
You can't really tell because every single one of them, including most of the bad guys, at least in the first scene, all wear just standard everyday camo.
Yeah, well, of course. But the bad guys have towels on their head. That's how you can tell.
That's true.
That's how you can tell they're the bad guys.
They have colorful bandanas strewn about.
Not a whole lot of nuance in this film.
Well, no, I mean the group that you're introduced in basically looks like they were like, oh, okay, this is what we're looking to cast in this part. We're looking for either middle-aged to old bikers or guys who used to be in hair metal bands who are now in their 50s and are out of rehab.
Yeah, so everyone except for Steven Seagal's spotter guy is way too old.
Yes.
They would not be in the military anymore,
No.
Or they would be in command positions and not in the field. Especially super fat Steven Seagal.
Oh man.
He is enormous. And he is billed as the title character of this film because he is the sniper of the titular sniper. And I think that's so he could just sit down the entire time.
Basically, that's because he's the executive producer of the movie, and so he paid himself basically to be in this.
I gotcha. Well, you got your Steven Seagal as a sniper.
Yep.
So that's something.
You also have as one of the soldiers Rob Van Dam, who some people out there might know as RVD. He actually, while he wasn't in it, he does tie back to a couple weeks ago when we watched Countdown. Because he's a wrestler.
I just assumed that this was like a relation of Jean-Claude Van Damme. But apparently no, it's a wrestler. And once again, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes. He was not a giant man, as you so eloquently put it a couple episodes back.
No,
because
to be fair,
all giant men equal wrestling.
To be fair, he is a giant man. It's just you put him next to Steven Seagal and everyone looks tiny because that man must weigh 300 pounds.
I don't know. He's not doing much of anything. They also have a guy who's with them that I guess our main character, because spoilers, Steven Seagal is not the main character of this film. Vic is, who is a buddy of Steven Seagal's character, but he's more so like the point man of their squad. And he continually calls the character Doc. But then when they end up coming across somebody who needs medical attention and they try to call in a helicopter, they say, and we're going to need a doctor on board. Do they just call him Doc because he like has an interest in medicine?
I think he's just a Bugs Bunny fan. So these are the kind of great jokes you get on the Phantom Zone podcast.
I don't. That hurt me.
This is what people come for, Adrian. This is why they're here.
I'm worried about you, Scott. That was sad even for you. That was sad even by the standards of Sniper Special Ops.
Now that hurts my feelings.
Well, I'm just being honest here. So you don't know why they're on this mission whatsoever. Just that Steven Seagal's up there in his sniper nest, watching a guy drink out of a flask. Instead of shooting the guy in the head right away, he shoots the flask to confuse him and then shoots him in the head.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all.
No. He wasted a bullet, and he's also toying with the guy.
And then later, when the rest of the troops go down to the body of the guy he just shot, someone picks up the flask and says something like, "It's Johnny Longboss," or something. I didn't understand.
No, he said it's Rob Van Dam. He grabs it and he goes, "This was Johnny Longbows," and then just looks sadly at it. Exactly. We've never met the character because the movie's only 2 minutes into it, and he looks at it sadly and then takes the feathers from it and throws the flask away.
So I'm guessing it's supposed to be like one of their troop mates.
I don't know. We don't know who he is. He's never brought up in like any conversation. There's not a scene later on where he's explaining to somebody who could have been the new member of the team like why he mattered. So we're just given reference to a guy that doesn't exist to us.
Yeah, but then we move on because nobody in this movie seems to care about dead soldiers at all.
No, and they only lightly mention the mission that they're on, and that's basically that they're looking for a group of bodyguards or something who were sent to protect a guy who it turns out that there's a congressman who was taken hostage in this village for some reason. They continually mention the congressman and his stance against the military, but at no point in the movie does it pay off.
Does that matter? No, not at all.
No, but they continually bring it up and say, why was he here? Why would he choose this place out of all of them? And they have the fact that he, when he's at base camp, ends up muttering the name of a bad guy. But how would he know about that character necessarily?
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. But they I guess we're supposed to be told that this whole thing was a trap because they walk right up to the congressman, they cut him down, and then they get ambushed. Yes. So I guess it was supposed to be a trap for them. I don't know why. What the bad guys' game plan here was.
No, I mean, I don't know if if they were trying to take them hostage. There's no reason for them to be shooting they are.
But I do know, as soon as shooting starts happening, the sniper in the titular movie called Sniper puts down his sniper rifle and never picks it up again for the rest of the movie.
No.
He literally snipes 2 people in this movie. And then he's just using a regular rifle.
Yes.
That's this movie.
Well, there's so many things that don't really seem to fit because when they're talking to each other, they readily switch between using their call signs and then using their actual names.
Yeah, I guess we should say that the dialogue in this film is dreadful. Nobody that wrote this movie or was involved with this movie at all, I think, has ever been in the military or talked to anyone in the military, because it sounds like someone just played Call of Duty and then just wrote what they said in that game. And even Vic, 2 seconds later, when they're being pinned down and he's trying to call for a helicopter, and they're being told, oh, we can't send a bird in because they've been redirected to this other base because they're being overrun as we speak. And he just says, this is a piss poor option, copy. Piss poor option, over. And I don't know if that's supposed to be a joke or if it's just supposed to heighten the scene, but it falls flat. And just like everything else in this film.
Yeah, you could maybe forget that some of that dialogue is bad if you have action that's actually engaging you and you're enjoying watching.
Oh, the gunfights are so boring.
In this scene, while they're pinned down, there's so much gunfire that's being made on the screen and you're hearing the sound effects of, but you have absolutely no sense of location of where the good guys are firing in relation to where the bad guys are, and where they are within the cityscape. It's just shots of people firing a weapon, and occasionally it'll cut to somebody somewhere else falling over and dying. Yeah.
There's no establishing shots. You're right. It's just medium close-ups of people firing weapons and then other people falling down.
Yeah, and that's just people firing indiscriminately. I know that one of the big complaints that was thrown at the 3 Expendable films is that it's just old men shooting at nothing, but they did better of connecting through editing where the gunfire was and where the people were who were falling over and dying. And if your standard is you can't match up even to the Expendables,
I mean, Steven Seagal is just on a rooftop, turning in 2 different directions, firing his gun, and that's all he does.
He turns in 2 directions, but he turns his rifle 4 or 5 different degrees each time.
I was watching this with my wife, and she says to me, "That's not how you're supposed to hold a gun, right?" And if she can recognize that, he's not even resting the butt of the rifle against his shoulder. He's just
No, it looked like because he was a sniper, maybe he was trying to do trick shots and ricochet the bullets off of
360 no scope.
That's all. It's just it's terrible. But it doesn't really matter. The only reason that it exists is so that a member of the squad can, the guy who's doing or who's up in the sniper's nest, who is I don't know what his title would be, But he's the one who's basically
Binocular Man. That's what I'll call him.
Well, because Steven Seagal calls himself Overwatch, and then he just calls the other guy by his first name. But he gets shot in the leg, so Steven Seagal takes him into a building, doesn't try to get, or he's they end up getting shot when they're casually walking to the vehicles that are doing the exfil to get everybody out of there. But he's just quietly, slowly walking instead of trying to haul ass to the vehicle.
Steven Seagal doesn't run. Okay.
No. And the banter's terrible because they're backed up and they're trying to get out of there. And Rob Van Dam, it cuts to him and then other people, and it's supposed to feel like they're having a conversation, but it's just basically Rob Van Dam throwing out random trope lines. Because he goes, that smelled like a trap from the get-go. And then the other guy makes a comment, it's just like, oh, we got to get out of here. And then he goes back to Rob Van Dam and he goes, at least they aren't behind us yet. And the other guy's like, well, don't say that, man. And then Rob Van Dam goes, we've gone as far as we can. And it's just like, you're not actually having a conversation. You're just shouting comments and you're not even paying attention to what the other guy's saying. What are you doing? And it's just, it's very awkward. But the vehicles are able to get everybody out. A couple people have been shot and they're not in the best of shape. But Steven Seagal isn't able to get to the vehicle in time because the guy who's with him is shot, I guess, in the back, it looks like. But when he goes over to him, he kind of pats him on the chest like for a second and then awkwardly grabs his arm and grabs him by the wrist and starts to drag him off.
Steven Seagal doesn't pick people up, okay?
Well, you see him like 2 scenes later when he's got the guy like slung over his shoulder so that it looks like he's bending the guy at the waist, which is probably not the best thing to do if somebody's been shot in the spine.
And it is very painfully clear that is not Steven Seagal.
No,
when he's walking him up the stairs, it is very clearly a double. Steven Seagal does not walk upstairs. He doesn't do it.
No. He doesn't walk upstairs or downstairs because anytime the movie has a shot of his character going near stairs, the camera looks like it's hiding.
It's so obvious that it's hiding
of the stairwell. and the guy's even the actor who's the body double is like trying to adjust his hat and stuff like that so you can't see his face. But the issue is that the stunt double is about a good 60 pounds lighter than Steven Seagal.
Yeah. So that doesn't work. But they leave. The soldiers leave.
They just leave him.
And Steven Seagal and lookout guy are just left in the middle of the city. That's it. Apparently, the United States Army just leaves people behind now.
Yes. I guess that program didn't work out so well from them before. And it's gone from leave no man behind to leave some guys behind if you don't really have the time.
And also, do not mount any rescue operation.
No. I mean, they ask, Vic does ask if they can do that, and he goes, no, we can't do that because all resources are going to this other base because they're still completely overrun. That's the whole reason why we couldn't get you a chopper. And Vic asks if he can speak freely, and he's like, that's a bullshit situation. And the guy's like, yeah, well, there's nothing that we can do. Too bad. So
we're just gonna leave those bodies because a couple American soldiers actually die.
Yes.
And then we're gonna leave the bodies of the soldiers and our army buddies just stranded.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna do that.
It doesn't matter. We get introduced to Conrad, who is a female photojournalist who was embedded with a squad, I don't know if it was months or years before, in which 3 soldiers died, and so they believe that she's a jinx, and she's trying to weasel her way in to get whatever scoop she can. And when she first meets Vic, she's trying to, get in his face and try to get a story and everything. And so he grabs her camera and tries to take it from her. And she ends up holding up her badge and goes, hey, I'm a NATO correspondent, so you can't do that, okay? It just goes from basically 0 to 1,000 in like 0.2 seconds while having the conversation with this guy. And
yeah, this woman is not a good actor.
No. It feels like she's somebody's like girlfriend, or somebody had a friend who wanted to break into the business. I mean, don't get us wrong. No one's a good actor in this movie, but she's a bad actor who's trying as hard as she can, which makes it more painful to watch.
I know, you kind of feel bad for her, right? Like,
yeah,
she's actually, like, out of everyone in this movie, she's the only one that is trying.
Exactly. And if you read the script to this movie and you thought, oh man, I gotta act the shit out of it because this is going to be my big break, I feel sorry for the judgments or decisions that you're making in your life.
Oh, poor Conrad.
I feel bad. I mean, hey, I wish them success. I hope they're able to go on to better things and have a couple acting classes. But if anybody's looking at the script for a Steven Seagal starring / produce direct-to-video movie as being their launching off point, that ship's probably sailed.
Dude, I'm looking at her IMDb right now. She's in a lot of stuff. It's mostly TV.
So maybe this was the off days?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably bit parts and all these things, because it's not like multiple episodes.
Can I ask a really bad question?
You may.
Are any of them daytime soaps?
Not that I can tell, because I don't know the names of those.
General Hospital, Days of Our Lives.
No. She was on 17 episodes of How I Met Your Mother.
Was she like a waitress or something?
Oh yeah, she's Wendy the waitress. That's who she is. Holy shit. My mind is just blown.
I feel terrible for that being my guess, but I was like, okay, who's the most insignificant female character that I can think of who's in that many episodes?
There, you got it. She shows up randomly,
and that's all I could think of. I was like,
2 lines.
Oh.
She was also in Will Smith's 7 Pounds. She was woman in Diner.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, let's move on. I feel bad for this woman. She's not good, but she's not working with the best material either. So
that's because you need to play to her strengths. You need her to be in the background or be the straight person in 17 episodes of a CBS sitcom.
Apparently be a service person in some sort of food establishment.
I mean, you would rather be known for that than this. And that goes for everybody that's in the movie.
That is true.
I hope all the people who are in this movie have something else that they could say that they've done or have been in to get people's attention. Because I don't think you ever want to be an actor who's in a situation who's like, oh yeah, I've been in a couple things. Oh, what's something I may have seen you in? Oh, Sniper Special Ops with Steven Seagal. Oh, was that one of his earlier movies?
Nope.
No, it was made in 2016 when he made 15 other films.
You know that phase of Steven Seagal's career when he stopped giving a shit? It was 10 years after that.
Oh my God. Did you know that he had a movie that came out last year where the plot is half Paul Blart Mall Cop?
No. What?
Yes. I'm serious. We'll continue on, but we'll bring that up in a few minutes. So we get a sense of what the story is partly going to be about at the base camp, because Vic senses that something's up with the operation that they were just on. Why would this congressman that they saved be out here in the middle of nowhere? You get the sense that, like I said before, that maybe it's going to be a like conspiracy theory type thing, but it's not.
Nope.
But he hears from his friend that he was muttering this name, which just happens to be one of the top 10 bad guys that they're looking for. Scott, I know that you probably are more up to date on current events than I am. Where do we sit at viewing the Taliban as a major threat?
They are not.
Okay.
And this could not take place in 2016. It's possible that I don't know, but in 2016,
it's a period
2016,
piece? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it might be a early late 2000s period piece. I don't know.
The movie takes place at the turn of the 17th century.
But no, this is not historically or current eventally accurate. Especially since they reference multiple times a place in, I guess, they're supposed to be in Afghanistan, I'm guessing. But they mention a place called Obama-Dad several times. That's not a real place. So I guess they literally just named a place after Obama. I don't know why. Maybe the writer really hates Obama, so wants to connect his name to terrorism or something. I don't know. But they mention Obama-Dad multiple times. So that's that.
That's terrifying. While they're there, they end up getting called back into the tent by the was he a general commander?
He's a colonel. He's
a colonel.
He's very old for a colonel, but he is a colonel.
He has absolutely no aspirations in his life to move up. He's like, I'm set here. I'm fine. I'll always get to stay at base camp. I'm good.
Yeah, and I guess the problem is when you cast Steven Seagal as a Army Ranger, you have to get someone as his colonel that is older than him. But the only people older than Steven Seagal are literal 80-year-old people, because Steven Seagal is like 65 years old. So this guy not only is a very elderly man, but he looks very old. He looks like someone that would probably not be a colonel of a forward operating base in Afghanistan. Yeah.
I don't, but he calls him in and he mentions that there was a vehicle that was making a supply run to the other base that's being completely overrun, and something happened where it broke down in the middle of the way. They've been called out to assist them get the vehicle running and take it to the base that's overrun. But the colonel decides, even though we're trying to stay within everything that we're supposed to do correctly, fuck those guys. I want you to go find out what's going on with the truck, get all the bullets and ammo that you can, bring it back to us, and if you can't fix the vehicle, blow it up.
Yeah. So this is the point where I said, oh, so we're just not going to rescue Steven Seagal. That's what the movie's doing. And that is indeed what the movie's doing.
Yes. But it does cut back to him like every 15 to 20 minutes.
To him sitting in a chair.
Him sitting in a chair, looking away from the direction of the guy who has been shot. And he's got a very disaffected voice that he's doing. I don't understand the motivation of like his tone to anything that he's saying.
His motivation is, I don't give a shit. I'm literally paying myself right now.
He sits in a chair for most of the movie. He randomly throws in man and brother for like no reason. Like that's half of the dialogue that he has in the movie. And there's a couple times where the guy who's been shot is there and is like, do you think we're going to get out of this or anything? And he's like, man, I just don't know. So then that's it. You're like, okay, thank you. He also never takes off his goddamn sunglasses, even though he's inside.
Or he's wearing the radio headphones too, like half the time, and he never
No,
takes those
not
off
all
either.
the time. It's when he's getting ready to go places. Like when he decides that he's going outside, he's magically got the headset on, even though he's made sure to let the guy know and the audience know that they have no way of communicating with anyone else because the radio is shot.
So he's outside of the first scene where we see him sniping. He's never in a scene with this young kid. I mean, they're in the scene together, but they're never in frame together.
No.
So, I mean, it's very clear that Steven Seagal probably shot every scene in this movie
By
that he's in by himself in like 3 hours.
Yes.
So that's how committed he is to this project that he is executive producing.
Conrad, our female, because there's basically only 2 to 3 females in the entire movie, is still hounding Vic to get information about what mission he's going to go on, if there's a way that she can come along so that she can try to get, a story. The whole reason why she's even permitted to be around is why, Scott?
She is the niece of an admiral. The problem with that is admiral is a rank in the United States Navy. This is the United States Army. This does not make any sense. An admiral would have no pull within the United States Army, and in fact, the divisions of our military give each other shit a lot, and if an admiral were to ask if his journalist daughter could come to a Afghanistan base, they would probably say, no fucking way. But
they say the position so many different times in the movie, and it bothered me because they established it early on. They don't need to continually say what her connection is, and
which is even more hilarious because it's wrong.
Yeah, well, not only
just
that,
say general. Just say general. You're done.
But in my mind, every time that they mentioned it, all I could hear was Ricardo Montalban as Khan saying Admiral when he finds out the new position that Kirk has in the years since. That's all I heard every time they said it in the movie. I couldn't get it out of my head. Just toying with me, just eating away like an earworm.
See, I guess I haven't seen Star Trek 2 in long enough, so I did not hear that. But
it's there. I can hear it right now. So she ends up hiding away in a vehicle to go off with them while they're going to check out this truck.
Can we just say how awful this military unit is? Like, everyone is super bad at their jobs. Like, yes. There's no reason she should have been able to sneak onto a truck.
Well, everybody seems just so completely disaffected and disconnected from everything else that's going on in the movie. It doesn't connect. Rob Van Dam, any scene that he has when he's like talking with people, he's a combination of confused and drunk just the whole time.
I think he probably actually was drunk.
So they get in the vehicle with an interpreter who, when the vehicle broke down, he started running off because he thought that they were going to be killed. That's how they have this information of where the truck is and everything. So they bring him along to the truck and have a very long scene just getting him to walk over to the truck to find out if there's an ambush or not. So they basically send the guy out there to die because they don't know if he's good or bad.
Yeah.
And this is where the majority of the film takes place. The movie's an hour and 26 minutes long, and about 40 minutes of the film are spent in and around this truck. They end up finding out that Conrad snuck onto the truck and is with them. They end up finding that on the truck that's broken down, that while it is broken down, there is a woman and her baby who came running out of nowhere and have been staying with the truck. And so now the guys have to try to find a way to get this woman back with them, as well as trying to fix the truck. Well, they're trying to fix the truck. two guys start shooting at them on a hillside, and they kill one of them, and then two more guys appear, and it's a gunfight that literally goes on for about 15 minutes while people are trying to fix a vehicle.
It is so boring. It's just as badly shot as the gunfight at the beginning of the movie.
It's so slow, and then there's no dramatic tension because they established 2 minutes earlier that Conrad is a crack shot because she says to one of the guys, "I'm an expert marksman. Are you?" And that's directly after she asks a soldier casually, "Hey, I'm a little naked out here. Is there any chance I can get one of those?" and points at his gun. And the guy says, "Well, I will get in a lot of trouble for this, but given the circumstances," and just hands her a gun.
You know what the weird part about all this is? Like, nobody talks on the radio to anyone at any point in this. Like, they make convenient excuses for Steven Seagal. Also, the guy that's in the transport truck, his radio is conveniently shot out too. Everyone's radio is conveniently shot out. But they came along in their perfectly functional truck and should have a perfectly functional radio. The second they get under attack, they should call for support or something. This movie, like,
it doesn't care, because in the middle of this we cut back yet again to Steven Seagal's character, who the guy who's been shot is mentioning that he didn't think his day could get worse because he had just gotten a Dear John letter from his girlfriend back home. And in the middle of the conversation, Steven Seagal just stands up and looks at the kid and goes, "Listen, I'm gonna go." And then,
I don't give a shit about anything you're saying.
"Wait, are you coming back?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go get some stuff." And it's like, dude, you stood up in the middle of the conversation and just told the kid, "So I'm not really having any of this. I'm gonna jet."
Why are you still talking to me?
Oh.
So then he goes and he goes outside and he sees the two bodies of, I think those are U.S. soldiers, right? Those are his.
Yeah, the two of the guys who are left behind.
Yeah, and so some terrorists walk by them, like poke them with their guns, and then walk off. So he just creeps up, and remember, he's like a 300-pound man creeping, so it looks hilarious.
It does, because he doesn't run or walk.
No.
He shimmies and waddles.
Yep, and then he picks up the backpack that, for some reason, the bad guys who were apparently rifling through their stuff did not take the backpack filled with things.
But he doesn't use any of the stuff. Like he just puts it on the table with everything else, and he doesn't open it or search for even what he grabbed at all.
Also, he needed to go get the med kit, right? That's why he went out there to get a med kit.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have a med kit, but he also managed to stabilize his partner who has a bullet in their spine.
Yeah, he says he stopped
What did he do
bleeding,
that?
But that was it.
What did he do that with?
I don't. With sheer force of will.
He just stared at it menacingly for a while.
Probably, and I'm just like their conversations are so short, and he's just staring off into nowhere, and like he's saying stuff that I don't know if it's supposed to be mystical or what, because the guy's like, "You didn't have to stay. You could have easily just left me behind." And Steven Seagal just goes, "I'm right where I'm supposed to be." Just like that. That's it. And the guy's like, but why? You didn't need to do it. And he goes, "I don't know why. You kind of remind me of my little brother." And the guy's like, so you lost him? And he just goes, "Yeah, man." And you're like, what? It's just the voice and the way he answers everything. It's just, it's so ridiculous. We cut back to the firefight, and the girl with the baby ends up coming out of the vehicle because Conrad gets winged. She just gets grazed by the bullet. It's nothing serious at all. But when the girl comes out, all the guys who are shooting on the hill, all four of them, see her and go, oh, and end up running off.
But it's not even really clear that they're running off because they're moving slowly, because everyone in this movie moves slowly. So it's just, they like turn a slightly different direction and kind of shuffle out of frame. And that's supposed to be them running off.
But the whole reason that they do that is because she's actually the daughter of the Taliban leader, and the baby that she has is his only male heir, basically.
Yeah, so apparently that's a thing in the Taliban that they need lines of succession. Important.
Yeah. So they end up coming up with a plan that not only are they going to take what they need from the broken down vehicle, but they're also going to use her as bait to go back to the city where Steven Seagal and the other guy are, and be able to grab them and not have to fire a single bullet, as they say.
Yeah, that works out as well as you would expect.
While this is going on, Steven Seagal makes another shimmy waddle maneuver out of the building to another building where there happens to conveniently be a radio where he calls in. He calls into the base and just says, "Hey, this is Overwatch." And they're like, "Oh, okay, thanks. That's cool."
Good to know.
But he picks up the phone and then awkwardly has this gun that he's just put across his chest. Like, he's holding it to his chest in case anybody just happens to come through the doorway.
It's resting on his belly.
But he's not even staring at the doorway at all. He's focused on making the phone call. They get the call back at base, and because they realize that he's alive, they're going to go save him, even though the other group of guys are already going to save him, even though they don't know that he's alive.
Yes. Because once again, nobody has any radio communication with anybody in the United States Army, apparently. Yes.
And the other group of guys, while they're coming up with their plan, they say that Vic decides, "Hey, I'm going to sacrifice myself to go back and get my friend. You guys take the vehicle and all the ammunition, and you get out of here." And then Rob Van Dam decides, "Hey, I'm not going to let you go alone. I'm going to go along with you." But he does so in a way that he just has to be on drugs, or I hope so, because he's beyond terrible. Like, he feels as if he's a puppet in a ventriloquism act, because like his mouth's moving and a voice is coming out, but it's not matching like with the way his body's moving or the way it should come out of his mouth. Like, it's separate than everything else. He exists on another level, but not in a good way. Like in a bad way.
And the whole time I was thinking, well, this explains why I've never heard that Jean-Claude Van Damme has a sibling.
No, that's not why. So they go back to town, and sure enough are greeted in the middle of town by the Taliban leader. And Vic goes up to have a little conversation with him, in which Vic says 2 words, and the guy responds in English, and Vic goes, "Oh, of course, English educated." And the guy goes, 4 years, liberal arts, scholarship. You? And Vic says, 4 years, high school.
Was this a dig? I was looking at the movie digging liberal arts degrees.
I don't know.
If you get a liberal arts degree, you're a terrorist.
Because then the Taliban leader laughs for a second. Vic makes another comment, and the Taliban leader points at him and he goes, "You are a very funny man." And you're just like, why are they just having this casual conversation? And he goes, "Okay, if you hand over my daughter and my grandson, I'll let you guys go. No questions asked." And Vic goes, "Let me think about it." He walks back and he goes, "Well, let her go. We've got no choice." And it's just...
And at this point, I'm thinking, holy shit! Like, this woman has like whip marks on her back, and then we're just about to hand her over to the Taliban guy again.
But hey, it's okay because it's not really the daughter. It's the classic old switcheroo. Lady has a baby hand grenade.
Was that a hand grenade? I couldn't even tell what it was.
I don't know because she
clips it to him.
Yeah, she gives it to him, and then pulls back and goes, "Haha! Look, it's me, Conrad." And the guy's looking down, and you can see like the pins from a hand grenade, but it looks like it's in some like slimy something.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I don't know.
But she definitely pins it to his jacket or something.
Yes, or it's stuck to him. Maybe it's the stickiness.
Maybe it's a sticky bomb. There you go.
Yeah,
that's what it is. The sticky bomb.
Sure. There. We made more sense of it than the movie did. I don't. And then the movie jumps back once again into more just indiscriminate gunfire, and you have no idea.
Well, so the
shooting.
So the Taliban leader blows up, and he's surrounded by all his men who just scatter. They could have shot her. There's like 100 things they could have done, but they did nothing. And then he blows up, and then they just scatter, and now we're gunfighting again. Yeah,
and they, Rob Van Dam placed bombs around the place when he first showed up, and he's pressing the button to try to get it to go off, and they're not. And Steven Seagal, conveniently, who's upstairs, firing his rifle awkwardly again instead of sniping, just decides that he's going to shoot the bombs from where he is. And I don't know if you noticed this, but when the first bomb goes off, it looks like all the bombs.
It does. They do
go off.
They do all go off. Well, the weird thing about this is, again, they don't know that Steven Seagal is alive. They don't
until they see the glint in the building.
Right. So they're just like, he just suddenly setting off bombs, and they're just cool with it.
Yep. So they killed everybody.
Everybody
because it's terrible. Everybody's dead, and Steven Seagal appears in an alleyway talking to Vic, which confused me because I'm like, wait, so he just left that kid dying upstairs?
Yes.
Just so he can have a casual conversation instead of being like,
yes.
Oh, we got him. We need to do it. And they talk about an amount of money that Steven Seagal owes Vic.
Oh. Man, what kept you, Vic? You still sore about that $50? Nope.
Because that's their witty banter.
Because they're friends, get it?
And then Vic asks him, he goes, hey, where's blah, blah, blah. And Steven Seagal, and I had to rewind this for a second and put on the subtitles. He asks him, he goes, oh, where's blah, blah, blah. And Steven Seagal goes, he up there.
Yeah, he did say that.
There. Like, he can't even, like, I couldn't tell if that's how the line was written, or Steven Seagal's like, oh, there's too many words here. I can't remember.
Well, because he had an accent throughout the film. Like, he's doing something with his voice, but it was never quite as pronounced as it is in these last lines he gives.
Oh, yeah. And so since everything's done, Conrad asks Vic if she can have his exclusive story rights, and then she wants to take a picture of him, and she does, and it does a freeze frame to black and white. And then she walks over to Rob Van Dam, who makes a really stupid pose, and it goes to black and white. And then she walks up to Steven Seagal, who she's never met at all in the entire film and has never mentioned at all, and says, Sergeant Chandler, are you really as good as you say you are? When she's never made any inclination she's ever heard anything about him. It goes back to Steven Seagal, who finally takes off his sunglasses and says, every once in a while. And then it fades to black.
Holy crap, what a shitty movie.
It's so, like, the movie, like Scott said, it's short, but it doesn't feel short. It goes on endlessly, just the whole time. It's a test. It's a real test. You could fall asleep in this movie and not miss anything.
it's amazing because when there's no gunfighting happening, you're like, when are they going to get to the fighting? And then when the fighting starts, you're like, when is this going to be over? Because this is terrible. So there's never a good part of this movie.
No. Well, I mean, I guess that I'm going to jump over the how I'd fix it type thing, because I think this falls under the Senorita Justice of don't make this movie.
Yeah, but if you have to, don't put Steven Seagal in it.
Don't put any. It doesn't. I mean, Steven Seagal's bad in this movie, but it's also horribly written. It's atrocious. This movie doesn't need to be made. The world already has enough army gung-ho movies that are made each year, and then it has several movies a year that are based on a true story, army movies. You don't need a fake one like this that has no propulsive energy, that has no real reason for existing, save for Steven Seagal felt like he wanted to make a movie for 20 days.
Yeah, it's because it's not like a movie that is necessarily honoring the brave men and women that are in our military, because it kind of makes them all look stupid.
Yeah.
So
and there's no real heroics that's in the movie. There's nothing that's thrilling about it.
No.
So
there's no sniping. It's called Sniper. I hate this.
Yeah,
I
do you have a ray of sunshine or a shadow of hell?
I mean, anytime Steven Seagal was in a scene is my hell moment. So, sunshine, no. When it was over,
that was your sunshine. It's like the clouds parting, and the sun was coming out, and you just basked in its glow.
I mean, just thank God it was not more than an hour and a half. If this was a 2-hour movie, I don't know if I would have been able to make it.
I did have a ray of sunshine, and that's early in the movie when Vic has to go off, and he's talking to Conrad. He says, "If you'll excuse me, I have a debrief to attend." And I'm going to start saying that anytime I need to go take a shit. Because he says it. He says it with that much aplomb, basically. Because I really feel like it would confuse people just like he confuses people in the movie when he says it. Because he technically doesn't even go to a debrief.
No, he does not.
I don't.
Oh my God.
All right, Scott, what is your vote?
Guilty. Fuck this movie. Fuck it. I'm done.
There you go. Oh, perfect. Guilty. Get it out of here. You're going into the Phantom Zone. You're going away.
Can we just collectively just put Steven Seagal in the Phantom Zone?
Well, see, here is the thing, because I came across that movie that I was talking about. I don't know if it could be worse than this movie. I'm not sure if that's possible.
What was it called?
It's called End of a Gun. And then has I don't know if it's supposed to be like the tagline to the movie or if it's a subtitle that says "Where Justice Prevails." The plot of the movie,
Oh my God.
according to IMDb, is a mall security guard and former federal agent crosses path with a drug kingpin's enforcer after he saves a woman from danger.
It's Paul Blart. It's like it's a less funny Paul Blart.
But
that Adrian is saying something.
That's the entire reason why I didn't want us to completely count out that, even though it is not this movie, there is a Steven Seagal movie that was made in 2016 that was called The Asian Connection, that he's the executive producer and actor in, along with Michael Jai White. The reason why I'm curious in seeing that movie is because of who wrote the story. The story was written by one Tom Sizemore.
Oh wow!
Yes. A Tom Sizemore-ridden Steven Seagal film.
Hey, there's a Steven Seagal film coming out in 2017 that I think is future Phantom Zone material.
Are you talking about Above the Law 2?
I'm talking about Attrition, which is written, directed, and starring Steven Seagal.
Oh, that's beautiful. Is that a real thing?
It
or
says
is
it's
that
in
like,
pre-production.
Is that like a unicorn fucked a gazelle and this is its offspring? It's that magical and elusive.
You want to hear the tagline?
I don't know if I can bear to take it, but sure.
When a Thai girl with mythical powers goes missing, Axe and his old team unite in attempts to bring her back.
That does sound like a gazelle fucked a unicorn. That's amazing. There's also this just sounds disgusting, but oh my god, I need this movie. He's also attached to a movie that is called Cyborg Nemesis: The Dark Rift, and this looks like a horrible dream. It's directed by Albert Puyen, who, if anybody out there doesn't know who that is,
I don't know who that is. Who's that?
You were not watching direct-to-action movies for years. This is the guy who directed the original Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme. He also directed 1990's Captain America. Yes, based on the Marvel character.
Oh, boy.
He directed Kickboxer 2. He directed Blood Match, Doll Man, Nemesis, the Andrew Dice Clay movie, Brain Smasher, A Love Story, Kickboxer 4, Omega Doom with Rutger Hauer.
Are these real movie titles? You're not just fucking with me?
No, I would not. I'm trying to find. Oh God, where's the one? There's one that I cannot find the title for right now. But Mean Guns. Mean Guns is a 1997 action film that stars Christopher Lambert and Ice-T. Now, the reason this director is interesting is basically every single movie that he's made, or at least the biggest ones that he's made, he has put out through his website unrated director's cuts of movies, because he feels that all of his movies have been destroyed at the studio level. This movie not only
they're smarter than him.
Exactly. Not only is it directed by him and starring Steven Seagal, but it also has Sasha Mitchell, who people would know from a couple of the Kickboxer movies. But if they frequented watching TGIF growing up, he was Cody on Step by Step.
I remember that show.
Yeah, and he was the dumb guy who lived in the truck, but then in real life ended up going to prison for a couple years, I think, for beating somebody. I don't know. And then it also stars Oliver Gunnar, who is a huge star, in quotation marks, from 1990s direct-to-video action fare. So, like, this movie should have been made 20 years ago, but it's going to be made now, so it's going to be just bizarrely horrible and amazing. The tagline for that movie is "The future, dark, violent, and more than human."
Of course, that's what the future is.
There you go.
Hey Adrian, how much do you think Sniper Special Ops cost, if you had to estimate?
I am going to estimate. I'm going to be daring here. I'm going to shoot for a high number. I'm going to say $5,000.
$8 million.
Well, that's because Steven Seagal had to get a paycheck.
Yeah, how much of that do you think was his money?
I guarantee you that 6 million of that was Steven Seagal. He made sure to give himself points on the back end too.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta, right?
Oh, I apologize for this, ladies and gentlemen. I do.
You know,
this one.
To be fair, bad. I thought Senorita Justice was far worse than this movie.
Senorita Justice is far worse than the movie, but at the same time, like there's moments that you can force yourself to laugh at because it's incompetent filmmaking. Like you've got that low budget, they're trying hard, but they have no idea what they're doing, so it comes off as just stupid. That fight scene sticks in my mind from that movie. The fact that she has the matching crop top bandana outfits in every scene of that movie stays with me. Her best friend being completely insane and committing suicide sticks with me. Nothing from Sniper will stick with me, save for the fact that Steven Seagal sat in a chair almost the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I wake up tomorrow morning and don't remember this movie at all, and it's very possible that I will.
Yes. Scott, where can we find you?
I can be found on Twitter at ScottDaly85. It's DALY. And you can see all my writing, reviews, essays, and stuff at dailyplanetfilms.com. That's also where you can see all the other podcast work we do, including the Daly Planet podcast. It's another weekly podcast alongside this one. And occasionally we do something called the Kryptonian Collection, which is the opposite of this, where we talk about good movies and try to determine if they're good enough to enter into our collection of the best films ever.
All right, and I can be found at Adrian Torres on Twitter, and you can also find my reviews and writings over at boomhowdy.com and downrightcreepy.com. We will try to do better next time. We've got another week.
Can't do worse.
To fit in heartbeats before we go down the road of March being the third month of the year and doing nothing but number 3s of bad movies. We've got a good lineup for you guys. So, we've got heartbeats we're going to do next week. It's going to be so much better than this one. So we will talk to you guys next time.
I am ready for some robots to have sex.
I don't need no predictions. I don't listen to fate. I'm a cold soul survivor. I've been known not to wait. In a land of confusion, no one's ready to face. If it's love that you're after, then you're in the wrong place, baby.